know that the true shift in long-term success is that your transformation doesn't happen in isolation. Like, it's not going to just happen to your body. It's going to happen in that you're going to show up better for your family. You're going to show up better in your work because you're going to, that discipline carries over. That discipline of meal prepping, even when you're tired, carries over to you making your bed and cleaning up your car. And it just carries over.
Having a clean home, like
exactly.
Performing better at work.
So that is something now I work really, really early on, because if you're now over 40, I'll be honest, the way the brain works, 91% of your thoughts every day are the same. So let's now take that compounding over your whole life. You pretty much ruminate on the same thing over and over. So if you have been saying to yourself, I suck, or even if the proof has been that you have been failing year after year at losing this weight or getting to that goal, you have so much rewiring to do that is going to take pen to paper work. This has nothing to do with calories.
Welcome to Muscle Strength and Menopause, the podcast for women over 40 who refuse to accept that nothing works anymore. I'm your host, Sara Frenza, a certified nutrition coach, fitness expert, and hormone and menopause specialist, and the founder of the science-backed Hourglass Body Method. After losing 50 pounds in my 40s and helping hundreds of women transform their bodies and life, I'm here to show you the real way to lose fat, build muscle, and get stronger in midlife without burnout, starvation, or shame. If you're tired of fighting your hormones, struggling with stubborn belly fat, or wondering if it's too late to build the strong, confident body you want, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll break down the science, bust the myths, and share the exact strategies that are working right now for women in perimenopause and menopause. Because muscle is your menopause superpower, and we're about to show you how to claim it. Let's dive in. All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Muscle Strength and Menopause podcast. And today I have a special guest with me. I want you to all welcome Amy Ledin. Amy's a good friend of mine. Hi, Amy.
Hey there. I'm so excited to be here.
Thanks for coming on. So I wanted to have Amy on because she's a coach. She's a fat loss coach and also a mindset coach for women over the age of 40. We've been friends now for a few years. I got to know Amy because I went through one of her daily agreement cards program that you had going on a few years ago. We met through there, and I really loved Amy, and she helped me out a lot throughout my own fat loss journey. And so I wanted to have you on today to share a little bit about your journey and how you help women. But why don't you start off by telling everyone a little bit about your own weight loss journey? Because you've had your own weight loss journey. And I think when you have your own weight loss journey, it really helps to really relate with your clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was a chubby kid. I was the kid that was teased. My nickname was Piglet. So I started at a very young age, very aware that I had a quote unquote problem because it was pointed out to me at age 13. I was going to Weight Watchers with my mom. My mom ended up having a gastric bypass after me watching her go through a decade more of diets. And I joined her with the diets. We did the cabbage soup diet. We did Slim Fast. We did the Special K diet. We did, I ended up going on Fen, through the doctor. Like I did it all. And yeah. And this
I didn't know your mom had a gastric bypass. She did. Yeah. How old was she when she had that done?
So I was 25. So she had to be only like maybe 50 years old. So really impressionable years for me, because really from like 13 to 25, I watched my mom, and technically unsuccessfully lose it. You know what I mean? Meaning like she had never seen the mindset component of it, and neither did I, obviously. Yeah. And so she ended up having a gastric bypass. I remember going and taking care of her for that surgery. I luckily had lost my weight. So when I went to take care of her, I had just had my daughter, Kameli, and prior to having Kameli, I'd actually reached my Weight Watchers goal. I joined Weight Watchers like at 20 years old, and I lost my weight, the good old fashioned way of, really counting calories. It was points back then, and it was their points in fiber. Of course, hindsight, I would have loved to have protein as a component, but what I did love, and I do defend Weight Watchers for, is never really restricting any certain food group. And over time, because vegetables were free, honestly, it taught me to gravitate towards it when I was hungry. And so
Yeah.
I just, I lost my weight through that. However, I didn't know how to keep it off. Right. So here I am
Yeah.
at like 25 years old. And probably for the next 5 years, I went through a lot of food issues, lots of restriction. I didn't know how to, one, now I'm like pretty much metabolically adapted at like 1,200 calories because I've been dieting now for 3 years. I've never rebuilt that metabolism. Right. And I don't even know this.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just,
Yeah. Like it's not, unless you get into like becoming a coach yourself, you
right.
really don't understand any of this.
Right. So I'm this disciplined person. I keep showing up to Weight Watchers and I'm just like at a standstill. And it seems like if I don't go any lower and don't add more cardio, I can't even maintain. So at that point, I start doing my research online. And back then, this is before Facebook, I'm old. They had forums.
Well, this
And
is
back then,
20 because you're 47 now, right?
oh,
So
yeah,
this
48.
is
Yeah, 47. Yeah, 47. So
40.
this was
Yeah.
2006. Okay. So
Yeah.
2006, I was on the Oxygen forums, and that's how I found my now husband, Eric. But at the time, he was one of the only people talking about what they called back then metabolic damage. And it had nothing to do with menopause. It was women that were former competitors that were suddenly
Mhm.
metabolically adapted and struggling to what once they could see, progress at a deficit no longer. Right. So, anyways, I reach out to him. He asks me in his forms, like, how long I've been dieting. And I'm like, 11 years, like my whole life. And he's like,
Yeah.
what the freak? Because he treated the sport like a sport and athletes need to take seasons of nutritional breaks, right? So he
Yes.
immediately told me that I needed to do, back then it wasn't even called a reverse, but I needed to build up my metabolic capacity. I freaked out because, of course, I'm scared to death to do it. And
To eat more
anyways, long
food
story
because that
short,
involves eating more food. Yeah.
yeah. And I did initially gain. I was one of those people that, you know what, I was kind of already too far gone. And so when I did start to add in those calories, and unlike some people where they kind of just are able to coax them back in and gain minimal,
Yeah.
I gained, 8 to 10 pounds. It didn't stop. It was kind of like, and he reminded me, he said, it's like a tsunami. Once it's coming, you have to fully accept it. You can't stop the wave mid and go, now I want to go back to a deficit. You got to see it all the way through. And so
Mhm.
that was my first taste. Now, at that point, I was already an aerobics teacher. So when I lost my weight, of course, this is when back you think everything is, maybe diet related. I knew it was nutrition related, but I got teaching classes and I started to see that everybody looked the same all the time, even though they were like hardcore avid people. And so that was when I realized so much of this is your nutrition. Like you can be
Yeah.
the hardcore, come at 5 a.m. in the morning, but if you don't, I'm not with you the other 23 hours. And so
Yeah.
at that point, I started an online business called Former Fat Girl Fitness. And it was just I really worked with just school teachers. And I kind of had my own way of doing the nutrition, similar to kind of Weight Watchers, but we did a pick and choose. It's where I came up with my food sub calculator. I was like, I got to
Yeah.
come up with a way to not I can't have restriction. This is going to, doesn't work for me. And so I started doing that while I was, working with Eric and then of course I just got the bug of just going all completely online. So now it's been really since 2006. So, 19 years I've been a
Wow.
full 100% online coach, making a living doing it.
Yeah, that is awesome. That's a lot of experience that you've had. And so really the reason why you got into coaching was because of your own weight loss experience and then working with Eric as well too. And
Yeah.
what did you learn from him like while working with him that you like were like, okay, did you have a moment where you're like, I have to teach other women like what is actually going on?
Yeah, I'm not eating enough. I think in general, I think ladies, of course, initially when they start trying to increase more calories, they're scale whores that get on the scale every day. And so then they see
Yeah.
these little bumps and think, oh my gosh, I can't keep going. But all of our bodies are really capable of eating so much more than we've ever really given it an opportunity to do. And he really taught me that off the bat because I noticed all of his clients were just eating more calories. He was really known in the industry because we did all contest prep back then. So I got right into doing contest prep coaching. And so all of, those people were already relatively disciplined. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
they
Yeah.
would already follow kind of a strategy. So you were able to see over time that they did see things in seasons. I didn't see this as a sport. I didn't see it as seasons. You know, I was just a lady that was looking for a means to an end. And
Weight
so the
loss.
gym, yeah. So it was like always eat less. That was the way. I didn't know that because I was really skinny fat when I hired him. Right. So when I hired him,
Yeah.
here I'd lost 90 pounds. I weighed actually probably even like 10 pounds lighter than I am right now, but no definition, no nothing, right? Through his coaching over those next 3 years, I went from 130 with no abs to 155 with a six pack. That's how much
Wow.
muscle I put on. Like at our honeymoon, I remember weighing in, I weighed like 155 and I had a full six pack. And so it started to teach me that most ladies are not over fat, they're under muscled.
Yeah.
Okay. And like really think about that for a minute. I mean, yes, I know all of us can stand to lose maybe 10 to 15 pounds. We all say that, right? But
Yeah.
when it really comes down to the core, if we're really trying to see if we can move the needle long term, it's that they need to be putting on more muscle, right? And
Yeah.
so that was the thing he really taught me right off the bat was I needed to be eating more.
Yeah.
And honestly, I needed to cut out the freaking circuit, because I was
Training.
So when I hired him, my nickname, I worked for the US Navy. I was a boot camp instructor and my nickname was
Okay.
Sergeant Slaughter. Like, and so yeah. So like I was known for like, you know what, if a guy was going to come into my class, because it was 99% men, I was going to make them puke. Like I was going to work them so hard that and I jumped in with them. Like, so I could do one-legged burpees, like I could do it all. And so when I hired Eric, he took all of that away from me because I needed to go through a season of repair, very similar to the perimenopause body. It's
Yeah.
also why Eric knew so much about this as I got older is he's like, Amy, your body's mimicking exactly what it does in a competitor's body, right? It downregulates, so it was just, I don't know where I was going with that, but learning.
Well, that I think the point is like the way you were training was
Yes.
it was different, right? You were doing
Yes.
like this cardio style, boot camp style training.
Totally.
So what did he do? He removed that from you, and
Moved it all.
moved you to what?
And I was able to get back to doing HIIT eventually. And I will say some ladies, even in our, we can talk about this as we go, but like for a season, I like to take it away completely because I feel like most ladies need to work through a season of just like repair, build up that metabolic capacity, put on some muscle, maybe if they enjoy it down the road, they can, but why add that stressor, right?
Yeah.
Same thing back then with me. Eric's like, why, when like right now the goal is to heal, I'm not going to add that stressor. And so it was hard because here I was teaching about 13 classes a week. And he said, you got to stop being you got to just walk around and manage it. Right. And finally he said, he goes, what are you chasing? I mean, if you really want that body that you want to look like you train and have muscle, then you have to listen to me. And so at that point, I just went all in and I saw over time, I got harder, I got firmer. Like I finally, like what I thought I was chasing, which was this scale going down, was not what I was chasing. I was chasing, which I think a lot of ladies are, is they want to be able to get out of their bed after having sex and not feel like they need to back out. Like, there's one thing I take.
They want to look good.
Yeah, because I used to be the person that I needed to be in the dark. And as soon as we got done having sex, it was literally like I would back out of the room to go to the bathroom, but you never saw my butt. And even like for years going on vacations, always covering myself up. And I was chasing that firmer body because now I'm like, yeah, I will get out of the bed and I will walk off. So, you know what I mean?
Because you've created that. And actually, let's talk about that because a lot of times, even with myself, I did Weight Watchers too, right? I lost weight and I fell into the exact same thing that you did. We became skinny fat, right? It's where like, even with me, like I described my body was skinny arms, skinny legs, a lot of belly fat, even though I hit my goal weight that I wanted to hit. And I remember going on a vacation and I saw this girl on the beach. I'm like, that's what I want to look like. She was fit. She had muscle. She looked like amazing. And so I think a lot of women think that Weight Watchers and cutting calories and doing cardio and boot camp classes is going to get them to their dream body, but it actually is not, and that's why they keep on spinning their wheels over and over again. So
Totally.
I know you specialize in working with women over 40 as well too. How has, even like, because you've been a coach for 19 years now, has anything changed in terms of like how you coach your clients that are over 40, over the past 19 years? You're in perimenopause yourself as well too. How has your philosophy changed? Has anything changed for
Yeah.
you in terms of how you coach, your clients now that
Yeah.
are in perimenopause or postmenopause?
Well, let me think of the three areas. I would say mindset, how it's changed is, of course, back in the day, most ladies would just see this as a means to an end. So, like, they would just hire me for 6 months. We go through a cut. I don't work on any identity shifting. I wasn't even aware of that. Most people were pretty disciplined. And so they go on their merry way.
Okay.
Fast forward to now, I just won't allow for that. I know that the true shift in long term success is that your transformation doesn't happen in isolation. Like, it's not going to
Yeah.
just happen to your body. It's going to happen in that you're going to show up better for your family. You're going to show up better in your work because you're going to, that discipline carries over. That discipline of meal prepping, even when you're tired, carries
Yeah.
over to you making your bed and cleaning up your car. And it just carries over.
Having
And
a
so,
clean home, like
exactly.
performing better at work.
So that is something now I work really, really early on, because if you're now over 40, I'll be honest, the way the brain works, 91% of your thoughts every day are the same. So let's now take that compounding over your whole life. You pretty much ruminate on the same thing over and over. So if you have been saying to yourself, I suck, or even if the proof has been that you have been failing year after year at losing this weight or getting to that goal, you have so much rewiring to do that is going to take pen to paper work. This has nothing to do with calories. And for years,
Mhm.
I didn't even touch on this. I only worked on your nutrition and training. But now
Yeah.
I know that if you're over 40 and you have struggled to not see success in many years, we have to work on starting a new script for you, because otherwise, and this is just based on epigenetics and the way that the brain works and synapses and connections, you will default to the old way you lived.
Yeah.
I don't even shame you for it. I just know that it's a programming issue. So
Well,
that's
it's 40
mindset.
years of the
Exactly.
same thing
Yes.
going over and over again. And I agree with you. If that identity shift is not
Yes.
happening, they will struggle with compliancy on their meal plan. They will
Totally.
continue to self sabotage and do all of those things, those types of behaviors. So,
Yes.
so now that's a lot of the work that you do with your
Yes. And
clients
we
is
do, that's
around
where
that.
my like daily agreement, keeping promises. And it's just been, honestly, I've been a guinea pig myself. You know what I mean? I've been
Yeah.
someone that I've gone through the journey that when I've had dips, I've tried to assess and go, okay, troubleshoot this. What do I need to get in place to help me? And so I've just brought them on. Like, in just the last 2 years, we started doing a rewired program where I really saw the value for myself to help me make long-term change. And it was not even related to fat loss. This was just me trying to be a better partner and a better mom. And that therapy I was going through taught me all about that scripting and that rewiring. So,
Yeah, I was going to say, like, how did you learn that? That was you going through your own personal
yeah,
therapy that helped you realize that?
my cancer journey, because I would wake up every morning in panic. And, like, when I was given a terminal diagnosis, when anyone is given that kind of, news, it's really hard to shut it off. And so for the first
Mm.
couple of years, I kind of compartmentalized it, but it was affecting my marriage. It was affecting even me showing up, because that part of your brain doesn't really turn off. So then I got into therapy. Like, I actually hired Nicole LePera, because I'm like, I am in the
Yeah.
thick of cancer and I don't know how to, like, turn off things. And so she helped me start doing that scripting, where I would actually write out exactly how I was going to show up the next day. And I would relate it a lot in that time to my cancer. Like, I'm going to wake up and I'm not going to be in pain. And your brain starts to actually gravitate towards what you write. It's very similar to hypnosis, right? So
Yeah.
it was just through my own journey that I'm like, man, this saved me through some struggling times. I'm going to now, share it with my community. I would say nutrition, what has changed over the years since I've started coaching, would be Not a lot in terms of calorie amount, because I'll tell you what, ladies think they have a slower metabolism and they really don't. It's actually that your lifestyle's changed. So we've changed nothing there. We still test our deficit at 11 times body weight. And we've done this for, Eric's done it for 20 plus years. And so,
Yeah.
and I'll be honest, I really thought I still was kind of in the back of my head thinking, oh, this isn't going to work. But I just tested it with 65 ladies and none of them had metabolic adaptation issues. They had consistency issues. And the test was that, you and I talked about this, they had
Yeah.
success. So nutrition wise, but what I have changed is now I'm more about protein and calories versus, I used to, when we coached athletes, they had a training day and an off day diet. And one day was very carb dominant, one day was very fat dominant, and they lived more like athletes. Now, fast forward, I'm fine with just building one template for a client, and like we really just match calories and protein. And
Protein. Yeah. And the
because
carbs and the fats
the
can,
research shows that low
yeah.
carb versus it doesn't matter. So it's really
Yeah.
then for that client consistency. So that'd be my only big change. And then training wise, well, a lot. I mean, even when I first hired Eric, obviously my volume came down, but I still did a couple days of, metabolic workouts and stuff. Just about 4 years ago, I mean, in fact, even in our group coaching, I was still teaching 5 a.m. Like
I
circuits
remember you
on
telling me that,
Wednesdays.
that you would get up to do a
I'd
live
get
at
up at
5
5
a.m.
a.m. and go on YouTube live with my clients. We stopped that about 4 years ago. And honestly, 4 years ago is when I saw the best shift in my own body, when I stopped doing my HIIT and I just started walking. And
Yeah.
I'm a tightly wound, and I don't even say this in a negative way. I think it's what's made me successful. I mean, you and I have talked about this a lot, that women that are high achievers can overstimulate their nervous system just because they're high achievers. So
Yeah.
these walks for and the ladies that resist it the most are the ones that actually need it the most, because I'm the person that freaking gets high on doing like a hard workout that makes you puke. So to tell me I got to do a slow walk. So we lived in Florida at the time and I started calling them Crockwalks because I
Yeah.
had to wear my Crocs because it forced me to not walk so
Slow down.
fast.
Oh, yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So that's
Wow.
why I
Okay.
nicknamed them croc walks, because I wanted clients to see, like, listen, this is not I mean, I know how to power through a mall. I am a fast walker. These
Yeah.
were intentional, slow your system down. And I finally got rid, like, this is when I just noticed, like, I got my midsection the tightest it's ever been, losing that, whether it be belly fat or just body fat distribution, right? Because that's really what shifts as we, hit this age.
So
So,
did you notice like the inflammation going down? Were you
yeah.
noticing a lot of inflammation in your body happening, or
I
what
think
was?
because of my cancer, I was less aware. I was someone that was like, I have so much going on that who knows what's coming from where. What I
Oh, yeah,
do,
that's right.
what
Okay.
I
Yeah,
do
that would
know
make
is my
sense.
hormone markers were showing like a decline. I was definitely not optimized. And so that shift, along with, I would say, yeah, like cutting out my intense cardio, my training. I even went to 3 days of training for a while, but 3 to 4 days of training where making sure I'm prioritizing my recovery. Like that used to not even be something. I would say that is something we've really shifted in the last 5 years, is we track biofeedback. And that is actually the first thing I look at versus your weight and measurements. Because here's the thing,
Yeah.
who really gives a crap if you've lost 2 pounds if you're not sleeping, your digestion is in the shitter, no
Yeah.
pun intended, like you're waking up in the middle of the night, you're not recovering from your workouts, you're exhausted, your hunger is abysmal, like all of these
Yeah.
things really should matter to ladies. And so what gets measured gets managed. And so I
Yeah.
would say that's the other thing that's shifted. But the fat loss philosophies, I think, are still the same. We follow the same people. I mean, Alan Aragon's been teaching from freaking
Amazing.
back then,
Amazing.
right?
And he's, yeah, and I've learned a lot from him as well, too. Like exactly like calories and protein. It doesn't matter, fats and carbs. It can be
Yeah,
varied through person. And that was great to hear. But yeah, we've got all of these really amazing people that we both follow that bring us the updated research. And I think that's what's really important is like a good coach will always stay up to date with the
yeah,
research and the data that's out there and evolve with it. And
Yeah. Cause
that's exactly what you and Eric have done, is like evolved, especially is a majority of all your clients are now over 40. You used to do a lot of prep work before,
yeah.
but now you
Yeah.
don't no more, right?
We completely stopped. So we had a shift about, maybe 7 or 8 years ago when we both realized it was very unfulfilling because again, in the competitor space, it's a means to an end. So they're literally doing it with a deadline with they and honestly, you can be a top tier competitor and have no identity related to this in a health way. And here's a perfect example. I've been on vacation recently 2 times where the most fit guys there are at the smoke shop smoking cigarettes. So health and physique looking good are not the same thing, right? And so what I
Yeah.
learned in the bodybuilding space was these people do a lot of drugs, right? They do a lot of
Yeah.
restricting of food groups and things like that that I just didn't want to be a part of that. I mean, we didn't coach that way, but the industry that way really promotes that. And so when we moved away, it was so rewarding to finally start working with, because it was our own journey. I went through like a midlife crisis and I was falling in love with personal development. And so we started talking a lot about it on our social media. And so it just was a natural like flow. Same with even the perimenopause. Like I got older. And so Eric was like, we're
Yeah.
older with our audience. Like, I would say like we have quite a few ladies that are even over 60, which I really appreciate. I love the lady that's over 60 that's seeing like, you know what, it is not too late to like make it serious now and get into strength training and they're the ones honestly because they come usually from either hip replacement or they've been
Yeah.
told they're on the verge. Because I had two ladies this last year that hired me, one post hip replacement and one that was already working with me before. And I will say the one that hired post, her transformation post, it's almost like I even said to her, I'm like, this was your blessing in disguise. It scared you enough that she got rid of all the skinny fat cardio and all she did
Yeah.
was strength train and eat enough to support that. And she got jacked. And then my other client that was, she was already my client, went through it. We just saw the benefits of eating this way and living this way. Her recovery was so much better. Like her physio was like, oh my gosh, I can tell you are strong. Like you are going to have such a better recovery. So there's just, I love seeing, instead of it being a coach where, my clients got on stage and, won awards from subjective sport. I love seeing now people that are like, you know what? I went on vacation and I wore a bikini for the first time and walked down the beach without feeling self-conscious. Or, you know what, Amy? I went to a holiday event and I was not even stressed at all. I didn't binge. I enjoyed a glass of wine and got up the next day and just got right back on my routine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like really helping them create that lifestyle. Now, we both work with women over 40. I find like, how do you help these women that are like stuck in this cardio mentality to, like, I have seen over the past couple of years through social media, there's been a big shift towards like strength training, but I still get clients that, I still hear, like, I run these 7-day challenges and women email me all the day. Oh, I'm going to do my boot camp class, and I'm just like, no, this is not what you should be doing. So how do you help these women that have grown up, like, they're in their 40s, they're in their 50s and 60s, grown up in the era of like cardio classes, aerobic classes? I mean, that's what you used to teach as well too. Boot camp classes, F45s, Orange Theory. Like, I find that as soon as a woman wants to lose weight, the first thing that they do is they go into a class and they start
Totally.
doing
I know.
classes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first,
And
yeah, you
it's
need
the
to
first thing that they do. So how do you help these women to really educate them around that? Because it is really a lot of education. You could tell someone you need to do this, and that, but like, why? Why are we doing this?
totally. I think, one is you're never really going to convince someone. So I usually say, success leaves clues. So I used to be a triathlete back before I hired Eric. I loved, like I said, I used to love the cardio. And I went down this really bad phase of doing like 1 to 2 hours of cardio a day. And I was getting
Wow.
soft and I was getting softer, right? And so I started doing research online and I started to look at marathon runners versus sprinters. And just like, let's look at the Olympics, okay? Like, look at a marathon runner's body versus a sprinter, like the people that are running like the hurdles and stuff. The girls that have hurdles have got delts, they've got the V taper, they've got quads, they've got glutes. They look incredible, right? They're chiseled, right? And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that all marathon runners, look softer, but that's typically what you're going to see. And so I used to just tell myself, like, what are you chasing, Amy? Like I'm chasing the body that looks like the sprinter that probably only does that once to twice a week, so to speak. And they've built their muscle through the gym, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with the person that can't be convinced. I mean, and I was an aerobics instructor, and I will say most middle-aged instructors, they're also soft. Like, and so that should tell you something. Like, again, success leaves clues. Look at the ladies that are lifting heavy ass weight. They're strong, they're hard,
Yeah.
you
They
can
look
see
good.
they look good. And so
Yeah.
I always say, like, go looking for it, find ladies to follow, and then stop following these other cardio bunnies so that you're not tempted to go in the way. Because I will say, marketing, I mean, I'm so glad that I am a fat loss coach and I at least know better, because this is a very scary world to live in where,
What about
somebody's
the
marketing.
rebounding when I see that? Like,
Yeah.
I had somebody ask me about that. Like they're jumping on this
Oh,
trampoline
yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, I think that's, a good perspective to bring up to women. It's like, what do you ultimately want? Like, what is the goal? Do you want to build muscle? And,
Right.
and now, we've had such a movement in the past 2 years of like, we're hearing it more, from a lot of doctors, a lot of menopause doctors. They're all saying the same thing. You need to lift
Yes.
weights. You need to
Yes.
get strong. You need to build, muscle. You need to increase that bone density. But also, then you get these marketing people like, the women are confused. You see these women on rebounders, like
Oh, yeah.
doing these
Pilates, the
things.
reformers, they're saying that it's the Pilates body. And I'm like, listen, if you're seeing any girl that looks incredible doing Pilates, I guarantee you she's had years and years of a foundational training, background. I mean, this happened in the CrossFit era. Like when CrossFit got really big and we stuck to like our heavy strength training and people wanted to move to CrossFit, we said, and because they'd see like some of these CrossFit athletes that looked incredible. I'm like, Kate, but listen, context. They're former bodybuilders. That's why they
Yeah,
already have if you don't have any muscle and you go join a CrossFit group, you're not going to grow because it's like metabolic circuit after metabolic circuit.
yeah.
So it's like not fair to the average person that looks at that. Same with Pilates. Like if you see some girl that looks like she's got this incredible, muscular body doing
Lean.
Pilates,
Yeah.
she's an outlier and she's
Well,
lying.
and also too, like I know a Pilates instructor, and her clients will come in and they'll be like, "Yeah, I'm trying to lose weight," and she says to them, like, "You're not going to lose weight by doing
No.
Pilates." Like, and I think that's the biggest misconception that a lot of women have is that they always go to exercise first when they want to lose weight and improve their
Yes.
body. And I, we both know it's primarily nutrition that's going to drive all
And,
of
and
that,
and you really should associate it all to nutrition. Like I really wish everyone could go through the experiment of not doing anything but nutrition and you will lose weight. And it shows you that. But you could do all the exercises but no tracking and you could still not lose weight. Meaning like you have 100% control with nutrition. And the moment that you stop seeing your gym time as calorie burn, you start to then embrace longer rest intervals, because longer rest intervals will equate to just getting stronger, because you're not just there to get strong once, you're there to then push against that every single time. And so this is
Mhm.
where good programming comes in. You can't just have like 3 sets of 12 forever. Like you've got to know how to adapt, maybe lower the rep ranges. Point being, you got to have progressive overload over time, right? Like if you are
Yes.
still a lady, like let's say you're like, oh, well, Amy, I am going to the gym. Okay. If you're still using roughly the same amount of weight that you used a year ago, I guarantee you're probably not resting enough or you've got too much junk volume in there to ever really get strong. Strength equates to a harder body.
Yeah. So have you changed at all, like in terms of your programming? Has that changed at all? And I know it's always been
Yeah,
strength training. Have
it
you
has. I
changed
mean,
it?
Eric for sure. Like I would say in the last, even when we first started our Look Like You Train 6 years ago, if he was to go back and look at some of those old programs, even more volume back then than even now, because the research is showing you really only need one set to failure, not even technically two. And so
Yeah.
it's allowing the woman that doesn't have as much time you really have no excuse now not to, because like this week, for example, we did 3 sets of everything because it was like a final week, and I loved it. I was in and out in 41 minutes, and that 3rd set just needed to beat a failure, and that was great. And the research now is showing that. So we've just really tried to stay with the times. I mean, Eric's like,
Yeah.
listen, I'm not here to be in like a circus entertainer. And that was hard for me when I hired him, because I'm like, where's the rest of my workout? Like I was used to like these death workouts, and the burn
And
is not.
explain junk volume to the listener,
So
because
junk
I think this
volume
is a
would be
good
like,
important explain that, because they're probably wondering what is junk
yeah,
volume.
for example, I think ladies sometimes forget that your muscle tissue and your fat tissue are 2 separate things. So I know when I was an aerobics teacher, and I was guilty of this, that because if my butt was softer, for example, I felt like if I did more hip thrusts, more donkey kicks, more kickbacks, more, and I would add in that extra volume to those problem body parts, especially. So like women, I guarantee with like the flabby arms, they're probably doing more tricep work because they think that's going to harden it up. But you have to understand, like, muscle tissue and fat tissue are 2 separate things, and they don't interchange. Like you getting
Yeah.
firmer in one area doesn't suddenly, so you have to lose the fat, okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's totally separate from hardening up a muscle. Well, let's face it, if you're adding a lot of junk volume in, how strong are you really going to be? Like if I'm doing 4 quad exercises, for example, like, and
Yeah.
I'm probably never really going to grow in that area. Week after week, I will be exhausted and I'll work my ass off. But am I like going from an 85-pound squat to a 150-pound squat in the next couple of years? Probably not. And that was me for years. I was pretty much stuck at like shoulder pressing around 25, which, hey, 25 seemed good. Like I looked around, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm pretty strong. Versus now I'm pressing 50s because I
Yeah.
have long rest interval. I was pressing 40s last year. Like, again, I used to also think that like our genetics like had an issue with that. No, it's that we don't lean into the hardness of it. We also don't treat it like a sport. Like if this was
Yeah.
tennis, for example, like if this was tennis and I was showing up for a workshop next week, and the coach sent me a video and said, hey, watch this overview. This is kind of help you what we go through next week. I'd watch it, right? Because I would know that it would help me to show up. Well, do you know how many people skip like the intros to a program or watching a
Yeah.
video on how to do an exercise, right?
Yeah.
They don't watch how to do a squat, right? And so they don't ever really get better at this. And since it's a sport we all need to do, it's a longevity sport. I think everyone, I mean, if you can't have like I mean, even with an online coach, I say go get an in-person trainer to take you through your gym and become very familiar with the gym so that you just have more confidence. Because
Yeah.
no confidence, I'll tell you what, you'll skip certain exercises, you won't do certain machines.
Yeah.
Whereas
That's
if you
right.
just say, hey, you know what, I am going to work with an online coach, but you know what, I do need to hire someone to take me through a few times so that when I walk in, I'm not like unsure, because you're working with your body and you want to feel really confident in the gym. It's a fun place that if it's done right, you feel like a badass within a matter of weeks because you're measuring something that if done right, you'll get stronger. It's exciting.
Yeah.
I love it with
And
my girls, seeing that over time is very rewarding.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing too, is like working on the strength part of it, becomes so much more important with, especially for women over 40, because we know that that loss of estrogen affects our strength. And so
Yes.
that's why it's even more important to focus on that. And, doing the progressive overload strength training, having a program in place, like, so many times it's like, oh, I'm strength training. And it's like, well, do you have, like, are you following a program? They're like, no, I just do
I don't
these
even
YouTube
know.
videos. And I'm like, that's why you're not seeing results. There's no structure to this.
And that is probably one of the biggest ones. And it's like, I'm not saying it has to be mine, not even yours, but follow a plan and follow it for a while. Because if you're like how I used to be, I used to like rip workouts out of like Oxygen magazine. And then like I download one from Muscle and Fitness, hers. I didn't stick to anything long enough to ever see any progress. So like stop dipping in and out. Like there's a lot of solid programs out there and a lot of great coaches out there. Like
Yeah.
the key is once you go all in, like go all in and stick to it for a while.
Yeah. And I'd say that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see is that, you know, even lots of clients coming to, I've been working out for a while. I'm following this app, like a generic app. And I'm like, oh, okay. So is it is it like a different workout every time you go in? Oh yeah, it's a different workout every time I go in. And they think it's a positive thing. And it's like, actually, no, that's working against you. You're not
they're like, I need to
allowing your
confuse my muscles, right? And I was that personal trainer. Like I tell people, listen, a certified personal trainer can get their certification in a weekend. When I was like 22 years old, I literally went for a weekend and got that. I mean, I have like several, but that first one was like a basic. I knew nothing about nothing. Well, when you're trading dollars for hours and clients are coming in, of course you feel this pressure to change things up. But man, if I could rewind, because it's funny, I have a lot of clients from like in my 20s that follow me. And I'm always like, oh, if the old Amy only knew what she knew now, I would have never changed their program. For 10 to 12 weeks, I would have had them show up every week and we would have worked on getting stronger. That instead, I treated it like a circus that I'm like, all right, let's confuse your muscles, I knew nothing. So,
but it's great to see the progression in your own, coaching and, education and how you've changed things. So like for the woman that is listening, all the listeners here are over the age of 40, what kind of advice would you give her if her goal is to, lose body fat? Like, what do you think and build muscle? What would you say is the first thing that they would need to do? I know we talked about nutrition and training. Like, what would be your first piece of advice to a woman listening to right now?
I would say do an audit first and foremost. And this is going to tell you where you really need to go from here. One, I mean, if you don't know how many calories you're eating, that's the first place. Find out how many calories you're eating. Two, if you are not currently strength training, you need to start strength training. Like that is a non-negotiable. Ditch the HIIT, ditch the circuits for a season. I'm not saying it has to be forever, but nothing is going to hurt you for 12. Like give 12 weeks of cutting out that intense work and replace it with daily walking. And it's less about steps because I'm a busy person. So if you were doing my steps, like that would be deceiving. I get 10 to 12,000 a day. However, it should be 30 minutes of designated time, like walking, whether it's, and I mean, ideally outside, like we sit at desks too much. So I would say those like three, like assessing, auditing your diet.
Okay. And for the woman that wants to audit the diet, what would you say would be beneficial for her to do that? Like,
if
write down, use an app, anything like that?
I always say, like, you want to test what should theoretically be a deficit, right? We say this. So I'm always like, take your body weight times 11. Know that there's outliers. So if you're over 200 pounds, like you may want to test it. I mean, I still say test it because it's still going to give you feedback, but don't be surprised if you don't lose, right? However, everyone else should test their deficit at 11 times body weight. And what this does is it gives you feedback because this should be what theoretically should be a deficit. Now, the way your body responds is going to tell you a lot. What I will say is, like I said, I just took 65 ladies through this and I only had one lady that maintained through the test, which still was a positive for her because she'd never ate this many calories in so long. But everybody else lost, right? But I say to everyone, like, test the deficit so maybe you need to go through a rebuild first. Like that may be your like, let's say that you're like, holy crap, Amy, I haven't ate this much. That might be your sign that you need to first shelf fat loss for a season and focus on getting stronger,
building muscle,
and honestly being compliant. Because here's the other thing. It's not easier to like follow a diet in a deficit. So if you're already struggling in a deficit to follow a plan, it's like, I mean, I don't understand that with people when they're like, take me deeper into it. Let's kick it into the next gear. I'm like, no. What you then need to experience, that person needs to go out of that deficit and start to see how cravings go away and like mood.
And how they feel better. Like they have more strength, they sleep better, better energy, all those things.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what I would do. I would test that deficit, but get into the gym like right away. Like that has to be,
and find a program to do.
Oh yeah. Don't be playing around.
Don't be like just, I'm going to go in and do these machines. Like find a structured progressive overload training program. And what we mean by that is like every week you're trying to lift heavier, whether it's a pound, 2 pounds, 5 pounds, every week you're stimulating that because the research is very clear. Without estrogen helping us right now build muscle, we have to stimulate through the external stressors like lifting heavy weights.
Yes.
That is the only way that we're going to build muscle as a as a woman over 40. Okay, so test the deficit, train, and what was the third one? Compliancy?
Yeah, I mean, you got, well, let's see. We said training.
I forgot to write it down.
Nutrition.
You said test the deficit, training, and I think the other one you said was around
ditch your cardio. I mean,
ditch the cardio. Yeah, and swap it for walking. That's right. Okay.
Walking. Yeah, those three. I mean, and I always say, like, some of your non-negotiables. I mean, before you should, if you're really serious about losing fat, then you better already be someone that's meal prepping on a regular basis. You already better be someone that's drinking a couple liters of water, because you know what? You got to earn the right to go into that deficit. It is a stress on the body. And if you're already not showing some of those identity markers that show what a healthy person lives like, which is like meal prep, and it is like it's movement, it's walking, it's all these things, then get those in place before you hire a coach, because then you're really working on so many things at once. And I always say, get some of these like low hanging fruit out of the way, which means like start prepping meals. Like that alone will make it, even if without like numbers to a diet, people that meal prep are just more intentional. Like they just are, because
100%. They're not dining out as much. They're not going for takeout. They're not like, I'm tired today, I don't want to cook, let's order a pizza or throw a pizza in the oven. That used to be me, right? Like when I had no plan in place, or it was just pasta.
Because if someone hires me and I say, hey, what's your life look like the last 2 weeks? And there's like not any form of like identity there that's tied to what we're working on, that's a red flag. I'm being honest. I'll be like, wow, so you're only going to turn this on to lose weight. Well, then what happens after you lose that weight? You have to associate your success with all these behaviors. It's not about your caloric deficit. The reason I have kept my 90 pounds off all these years is not because I know my numbers. It is because I anchor all of these lifestyle things daily.
The habits. The habits. Like me, way. I had a long day last night, but I still stayed up and made sure I got my meal prep done, made sure my food was all ready. Cause it's like, what other option do I have if I don't have my food ready? It's like the built up of like these habits that I've really made over the past, now I'm going to be going into 7 years, but 7 years of like building up all of these habits. And now it's just programmed with me. And a lot of times, we get a lot of like, we don't get a lot of the clients that work with us. Some of them have been in the gym for a while. Like, they've been working out for a long time. Maybe they don't have the nutrition in place. Sometimes we get women that are very new to training and nutrition. And so that's why we don't start off with the fat loss phase. We work on supporting your hormones like cortisol, insulin, and ghrelin and leptin, like not just sex hormones, all of these other hormones as well too. And working on the foundations like meal planning, meal prepping, designing a meal plan for you and your family for the week, like knowing how to reach your goals with foods that you absolutely love. Okay, that is really great information, Amy. If people want to find you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm Amy_Ledin, Ledin. I'm over there, and Facebook, but IG is where I'm at.
I'll put the links in the show notes as well too, so people can come find you. You're on Facebook. You're on Facebook as well too. We can put that down there. And I hang out with Amy quite often, so you might see her, on my stories as well too, sometimes as well too. But thanks. I think this was really, really helpful. You all have some actionable steps that you can go start doing right away. And we hope that I can see you back here again next week for another episode of the Muscle Strength and Menopause podcast. Thanks, Amy, for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Muscle Strength and Menopause podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you hit the follow, leave a 5-star review, or share this with another woman over 40 who needs to hear this message. And if you're ready to stop working against your hormones and start building the muscle that becomes your menopause superpower, visit sarafrenzafitness.com to learn about my one-on-one coaching program using my signature hourglass body method. Remember, this isn't your decline, ladies. This is your comeback. And so I hope you tune in again next week. Now, before we go, a quick reminder, this podcast offers health, nutrition, and fitness information for entertainment and educational purpose only. Always consult with your physician or healthcare professional for any health-related questions. And remember that any information provided here is at your own risk.